Welcome back to Star Trek Online, everybody. I'm your host, the Housecoat Gamer, and today we're taking a look at a ship that I despise. More for its aesthetic than its stats. The Hysperian Intel Battlecruiser. This ship only appeared in one episode of Lower Decks. And while I could spend 15 minutes ranting and raving about the bad Rick and Morty clone, whose only real contribution to the series has been the canonization of several designs, including the Luna, I will instead focus on, well, the pros and the cons of this ridiculous ship. Pros. It has exactly the same stats as the Fleet Avenger. So anyone wanting to practice with the Fleet Avenger, I've tier 6 X'd mine, so this'll help you get practice for it. Practice builds for it. It has Intel powers and a built-in cloaking device, unlike the Avenger, but if you want to mount a cloaking device console to it, that's entirely up to you. Now on to the downsides. Most of these are pretty nitpicky, but considering the very serious nature of how these powers usually work, they are nonetheless valid. Let's start with the console, which I removed. The Dragon's Blood Flame Reactor. One, this console is completely useless for Federation players. Now, I know some people do use feds with disruptors, in which case I look at you strangely and go, what the hell are you thinking? This is not... That's not how you work with these boats. I mean, feds are very, very, very phaser biased. They've got a few Tetrion boats, but other than that, it's phaser. And basically all this does is give you a flamethrower ability in front of your ship. In other words, this console is best used with KDF boats. The Starship trait is no better, because all it does is improve the exotics, fire, cold, electrical, radiation, and psionic, as well as more disruptor damage. In other words, the console is useless for Federation tunes, the trait is useless for Federation tunes, and now we get into the part that seems a little bit nitpicky, but considering the very serious nature of some of these things, well, very understandable. First, cruiser commands have been renamed Bardic Songs when no other ship does this, and I would have accepted it happily if it were just a joking blog post. I would have just gone, they're getting a little too into it. Fortunately, it's not going to translate into the game. I can happily ignore this. They actually did translate into the game, and that kind of makes me angry. As I said, it also has a cloaking device. It's not a battle cloak, though, again, Fleet Avenger. And as a full Intel boat, it has Intel powers. Needless to say, I am not exactly a happy camper. They went a little overboard on the whole medieval-themed crap with this summer event ship. So I am not exactly impressed. Now, how would I improve it? Well, for one, standardize everything. Get rid of this bardic song crap. Replace it with the standard cruiser commands, as usual. Make the starship trait faction-specific. As in, you're a Federation tune, you get extra phaser damage. Same with the console. All that stuff should have been just left in the blog post and been done with it. But it was not. However, I personally blame Paramount for all this because contractual obligation. I highly suspect Cryptic doesn't actually want to be dealing with any of this crap. Like STD. I mean, they did what they could to make it actually tolerable in STO. Which is a freaking miracle. That said, they are being forced to do it. So, I blame Paramount, not Cryptic. Regardless, would I recommend you get it? On the one hand, I despise this thing because its trait is useless for anything that isn't a Romulan or a Klingon, because Romulans can use disruptors pretty easily. Especially if you get to Tier 6 in their reputation system. You can still use the Hyperplasma Torpedo Launcher with an experimental disruptor beam array. It's also useless for Jem'Hadar, because they're all Polaron focused. And we've already gotten to Starfleet, so the trait is useless, but the ship is good practice if you want to use this thing as a, hi, I'm gonna train up, see how this thing handles, because maybe I want the Fleet Avenger. Because it's got the same bloody stats, the same loadout. Of course, it has it has a different bridge officer layout. That said, otherwise, it's just a Fleet Avenger. Which means good practice for anyone who wants the Fleet Avenger, but otherwise, it's Admiralty bait. And useful for Klingons and Romulans. Hopefully Cryptic kind of makes up for this by giving us a legendary constellation. Because, well, we kinda need one. I, on the other hand, am going to finish trading this piece of crap and getting rid of it as soon as possible. Because it's useless for Starfleet. Good practice for Moog and Fleet Avenger players, but useless for anything else. Housecoat Gaming, signing off.